I want to point out one other thing that I've done here. When I had the back checks out, I drilled for the larger shanks of the new back checks. And I made that hole a little bit smaller than the knurled part of the shanks, but calculated it to be close enough so that I didn't split any of these little blocks. And that worked out fine. But I also countersunk the holes just ever so slightly with the view that once I had my back checks in place, I might have the need to square some of them. In fact, I made an arrangement with my drill press in which I taped things internally so that it couldn't move, and they came out very consistently square. But there were one or two where there was a little tweak of that. But in general, I then roughed them in to the place that they were going to be, and then I added thick super glue, first at the back when everything was together, and then later on at the front, making a very solid foundation from which to fine-tune the in and out for the back checking and have it be solid. And of course, more can be added as needed, but it hasn't been needed. So now the thing is that I want to put each of these under the soft punching and not disturb the neighbors while I'm doing it. One of the beauties of working from the regulation station is that I don't have to pick the action up out of the piano with the thin punchings on it. So vulnerable to my shirt grabbing one or a puff of air coming through and disturbing them. The leveling came out well. I had to do a couple of takes on that little section, and I would put the action in, press down on it, and go like this. And actually it's not a bad test for, obviously if you go to the end you can get it to tap, but anyway, came out well. I had forgotten to show you the spacing, and so I did a little bit of refinement of spacing when it went back on, but I've been through with the field test, and in one or two places I found a little more squaring was needed, and in a couple of places I settled the key on the balance rail. But anyways, come out beautifully. Ready to go. Now I have to adjust my hammerline. Now I may actually end up doing this twice because I'm going to adjust the springs once I get the hammerline and the aftertouch and the back checks. So there's a little bit of back and forth at this point, but it's all within a close tolerance. Now, what I've done is push back the regulating rack a little bit rather than having it directly over, because that way I can see who is too high as well as who is too low. And make an adjustment that, I can see what it is I've done. I go up to strike first, and then with the thinnest white, adjust treble to let off with the gauge key, and then the thickest white gauge key takes me to the base let off. And takes me the same place each time I need to go there. Okay. Okay, now let off. Whether the let-off punchings have been replaced or they're original, the chances are that they are not all perfectly in the right plane, which means that some of them are more sensitive to adjustment than others. If they're the original punchings, there'll be a worn place on them that will be very stable, but everything around it won't be as stable. And so, as with this punching that I'm turning now, I'm going in a direction that should take me to less and less let off, but initially it took me to more. And it just is what it is, and you want the stop to. So, I mean, another thing that can be done is when you think you're there, you can settle them. And you end up with something that is very stable. Now in this round, I'm going to reseat them individually as I go. And now I'm going to do drop. Okay, for this particular action, I can manipulate the let-off screw with my fingers, at least for most of them. So I found that by doing that and then compressing it, I can then get to a place where I've got a stable result more quickly than. You can see that makes quite a lot of difference where it hasn't been. So it's a little bit like tuning. You can go a little bit too far and compress it into the right spot. And please like, subscribe, or follow the link in the notes to my website.